G'day, patrons. How you going? One thing I have been doing a lot, you haven't seen me much in the brewery because I've been doing that course I keep mentioning, and it's taking a lot of time. I've been putting in probably way more work than I have to. I've just got pages and pages and notes. And notes and notes, that's nearly half a book there. And I've already filled another book. I can't see what I'm doing. Way too many notes. Because that was on malting, grain, and then the water. And this one's been on hops and yeast. And it's sort of down to the... Well, it is. It's down to the molecular level. So it gets pretty detailed sometimes. Well, sort of all the time. But I'm learning stuff, which is good. I've just got to work out how to study quicker. I'm taking way too many notes. But anyway, I'll be able to give the course just from my notebooks. I'm taking that many notes. But I'm up to the yeast module, and I'm pretty sure someone's mentioned this to me before, but it was in one ear and out the other. But you know, they can breed yeast really fast. It breeds in 90 minutes to 2 hours. You can reproduce by itself, asexually or sexually. So they do it sexually, of course, to try and breed new yeast strains. And they can look at their DNA and find out which yeast strains have the best DNA and which bit they want. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean. It's just crossbreeding, like we've been doing for hundreds of years with animals, thousands of years. The yeast bit's easy because it's really fast, but of course the beer bit, they can't test it all. They can breed millions of different yeasts, but it's really hard to test it because you've got to brew a ton load of beer, even if you're brewing 10-litre batches or whatever like that. So anyway, this is a bit mind-blowing. But I just went to tell the wife, and she didn't want to listen. She's busy working. So I thought I'd tell you people instead. And you just might think it's cool too. But hang on, just let me mute my mic, because things will go haywire. And we'll see how they've been brewing beer at a very, very small level to be able to test the yeasts.
So my lab is quite nicely equipped to study all aspects of yeast and beer. We have robots that can help us with the crossing of yeast and breeding, so we can literally make thousands and millions of crossings actually in only a short time. We have equipment to measure all the aromas, gas chromatography coupled with mass spectrometry. We have other robots that analyze things like bitterness and color, and acidity and alcohol levels. So all these technologies together really put us in a perfect position to analyze completely how a yeast is behaving. So the major bottleneck in our breeding research to make better yeast strains is testing all the strains. It's quite easy for us to make millions of new yeast, new beer yeast, but it's way more difficult to make millions of different beers with all these different yeast to test how they're really doing. So we've invested a lot in downscaling the fermentation process, so we can downscale it to microliter scale, so that's already quite small. But we went beyond this because it still wasn't small enough, and so we are working together with a company called IMEC, which are just next door to us, who've helped us to make beer on microchips, and I actually have a chip right here. So it looks like this. And on this little chip here, which is 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter, we literally can test thousands of different yeast strains. All of them are fermenting a microscopic volume of beer wort, only a few picoliters, in small droplets that you cannot see here, all together on this chip. And so then we can measure in these droplets just how well these yeasts are doing. And this allows us then to screen literally 10,000s, 100,000s of different yeast in a very small time frame. And that really puts us ahead of the competition. And it also allows us to really start breeding at an incredible fast pace and to make really better yeast strains. Apart from testing the yeast, either on a lab scale, very small volumes, or in our pilot brewery, you can go up to 500 liters to test how yeasts are making beer. We can also completely sequence, unravel the DNA, the genetic material of all these yeast. And so we've done this for hundreds of yeast in our collection now. And that allows us to make a family tree of all the beer yeasts, and that's exactly what we've done. So we discovered that all today's beer yeasts come from two medieval families, two separate families. And we also know which parts of the DNA are responsible for which properties. So that then allows us to look at, on the DNA level, to see which yeast have useful, good pieces of DNA, if you will, so that we can take those parents, breed with them, and hope to get offspring that combines all the good pieces of DNA and doesn't have the bad pieces of DNA. So it really is what we call molecular breeding. It's a next level kind of breeding.
Mind blown. Wow, isn't that a spin out? Oh, sorry, I have to tell somebody. Ever messaged me, mate, but he hasn't answered me yet, so I was like, I've got to tell somebody. As I said, I'm sure my friend who actually put me onto this course told me about this a while back now. But anyway, just sort of jump in and say good day, and that's what I've been doing. Actually, I had to catch up with the homeschooling. I never got much done, and I was a bit behind for my exam times. So yesterday I finished off the hop ones, and today I'm doing some yeast. And then hopefully this afternoon get back into the brewery. Well, I've got to record. It's nearly time. I might even be able to keg it today. My beer's ready already. The Jetty Road IPA. It fermented really fast. I never had... People were saying that because I don't use the Brew 97 much since I had a bad batch. It was drinkable, but I didn't like the batch. It was many, many years ago, and I never sort of touched it again. But the 2 packets, it fermented out easily. It was done in a couple of days. By the next morning, it was fermenting, and it chugged through it. So I dry hopped on the 31st, which is, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 days ago. But it was actually when I dry hopped. Like, there was virtually no krausen. It was nearly empty on top, and I like to dry hop just before it finishes. There was a tiny little bit of yeast action still. So I think I got in there in time. I dry hopped. For last night, before I went to bed, I started the cold crash. So the dry hop was 3 or 4 days. But so that was only a week. And, I turned up, it was under 1020 about 3 days in or 4 days in, and I bumped the temperature, and that just finished her off. The next day I dry hopped, and then the dry hops were in there for that 3 or 4 days. So about 8 days. That's amazing. 7 days. Well, not amazing. Most of my yeast, if I use 2 packs, will be doing that lately. So I know it's expensive, or if you can do a starter or something, but it really helps. All right, I think that's enough. And so what I'm saying is I've got to get back into the shed. I've got to do a couple of videos on the main channel. There's lots of stuff I've got to review. I got a benchy, and I finished the grain mill. I'm just not 100% sure whether I want to say it's good or bad yet. I've only used it once, even though I've been using the other malt zilla for ages. My first one was faulty, and so the second one I've used once and it worked. But it's like one of those things I don't want to test it over and over again before it. But I've got to get the video out. So there's that. I've got to do. Did I say the benchy and the new little fittings they got? But they've already done their video. They don't send me stuff now. Well, actually, it was nice of them to send it for free. Usually I've got to hassle them or I've got to buy it myself. But they sent me some of those new quick disconnects, not very exciting. but they've already had their video out a week anyway, so it's not... What's the point of me doing one? But I'll do one anyway. Maybe I'll put them under a stress test or something. See how they go. That's probably a good idea. Maybe that's what I'll do. Today or tomorrow. At least... Even if I don't get to video today, I'm going to go out and set up the studio because it needs a whole different rearrangement compared to the brew days. So, yeah. Anyway, take care. Hope you're all healthy. Stay cool. Stay cool. Stay healthy. Take it easy. And I'll talk to you later. Cheers.